LGBTQA. Like you just don't want to. It's a third of the league is, and they're black women, and you can't really market that to America. So here you have this woman from Iowa who they think is hetero and living the life that she is supposed to live, and accordingly, and doing all the things that represents basketball.
So and just projected all this.
This is an insanely wrong.
You say that this is a mirror of what we're living in our broader society.
I feel like sports, politics, and culture always intersect. I think the story of Caitlyn Clark and Angel Reese, the rivalry, which really isn't a bad rivalry or a true rivalry on the court, is a good thing. I understand that both of these young ladies, and I'll relate it to the race in just one moment. Both of these young ladies were already defined, and they already had to play roles before they even stepped on the court, just based on where they come from, how they were raised, and how they conduct themselves. So when we see Angel Reese doing the "you can't see me" ring finger to Caitlyn Clark, the optics of this black girl really taunting this white girl was hard for all of America to see. They're like, how dare? But that is a rite of passage. When you win, that's how you play sports. You have the right to trash talk. But the reason why this relationship, this rivalry is so compelling is because it's what this country is built on. It's black and white. Yeah. And if people want to be interested in black and white, take a look at the race. When did the race get really interesting? When a black woman entered the race.
Oh gosh, this is about to be an interesting video. Jesus, it's gonna be a long one. My name is LFR Jojo. Today we'll be talking about the racial undertones of the Clark-Reese rivalry and how Caitlyn Clark practically said she got to where she was because of her race, and someone else is going to come in and say, nah, that's cap. This is going to be a good one because I love basketball. I played basketball for years. I played for decades practically. Well, I haven't been alive for that long, but yeah, I played for years. I actually watched that game that they're talking about, and I follow both Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark as basketball players. So I'm interested to see what they'll say about this. Let's continue.
And then now we have all of these conversations about whether or not Kamala is black enough. Is she too black? Was she doing things she wasn't supposed to be? And there are all of these racial issues that are coming up that have nothing to do with the election, and that is exactly what's happening with this.
I don't think people even know what Caitlyn Clark's politics are.
Well, they got by the way, no, I don't even think her liking a post suggests that she's endorsing Kamala.
Let me just explain, because I think if anybody missed it, Taylor Swift did her post endorsing Kamala Harris and encouraging people to vote. Caitlyn Clark liked this post, which caused a huge uproar because I think people assumed that she was, because she's white, that she is conservative or Republican. I don't know.
But it wasn't just that, though, Abby. I think the issue is that there were a lot of people who called themselves fans of Caitlyn Clark's, and frankly, and I know you found this, Carrie, that the reason that they became so vocal about their fandom of her was because they were using her as a wedge and a weapon against the black women in the league.
And they co-opted the narrative because the league, the WNBA is the league of LGBTQA. Like you just don't want to. It's a third of the league is, and they're black women, and you can't really market that to America. So here you have this woman from Iowa who they think is hetero and living the life that she is supposed to live, and accordingly, and doing all the things that represents basketball.
So and just projected all this.
This is an insanely wrong take. Insanely wrong, and I hate this take. I hate it. I hate everything about it because I can tell you don't watch basketball. You don't know how good Caitlyn Clark is. You don't know how good she is. The reason Caitlyn Clark is so popular relative to other players in the WNBA is not because she's white and we have a black and white issue in the country. It's because Caitlyn Clark is amazing. Have you seen her play? She's amazing. She single-handedly carried, well, I'm not going to say single-handedly, but she carried Iowa to a national game. That's what Caitlyn Clark did. She took a Cinderella story. She carried them. She was amazing. Amazing. Has some of the most assists as a rookie ever. She was breaking records her rookie year in the WNBA. This is why people get behind her. It's because she's a generational talent. And what you're trying to do, what you're really trying to do without doing it, is undermine how good she is. Undermine her generational talent because she's a white woman. Let's be honest. What you're trying to say is the WNBA has players better than her, but because they're black, they'll never get the same credit she gets. What's really happened is that Caitlyn Clark is a generational talent. She's so good that she had people going out their way to watch college women's basketball. She was going up against juggernauts in college women. She was going up against UConn. She was going up against LSU. Straight juggernauts of teams. And she was dropping 30. She was giving them the business. That's why people get behind her. And I know you don't watch her games because if you would have watched even one of her games, you would have known this. You would have known this.
I think that's one of the
onto these basketball
Couldn't it
players.
just be that Caitlyn Clark is like one of the most talented
She is
women
talented.
basketball players
There's no question
in the history of the country? She comes along, she does amazing things, and then people say people say all of a sudden I'm now interested in something I wasn't before. Look at the attendance, look at the viewership, and then they watch the games. And she's constantly being abused. She was stabbed in the eye last night.
She was not stabbed
in the eye.
See, that's what I'm talking about. And by the way, why don't you bring up that elbow that she gave another player on the court? It was physical.
There's one thing I think we can all agree upon.
She got stabbed in the eye.
Even if people believe that this is a reflection and a microcosm of where the country is, there are really rarely two young women who are doing a better job than the adults in this country.
Correct.
Than Angel Reese and Caitlyn Clark. They are standing, like Caitlyn Clark, she had to stand there and not, what was it? She didn't get MVP, she didn't get something, and they were like, all these cameras in her face, and she's a young 20-something woman, and she's like, it makes me want to be better. I want to be a better player. This is, our political leaders could learn more from these two women being able to stand. Oh, I think so. Because you know what?
I want
they
our political leaders to make more waves.
They put it aside and they focus on the win.
One more layer to this discussion because Caitlyn Clark she burns my soul.
Does she now?
And I have to admit that.
Oh,
because of the simple fact that I'm a huge South Carolina Gamecock fan, and Don Staley is like Jesus, Martin Luther King, and Don Staley in my household. But I will say this, Caitlyn Clark has done an amazing job at handling the scrutiny and handling the press. And one of the layers that I will add on to this, and it's a little bit different from the way we discuss race and American politics, is that the men who discuss the WNBA, specifically Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. Smith, just don't know shit about women's basketball. And when you have that layer of anti-intellectual debate that manifests itself within this discussion, it makes it a cancer. And so,
What are you talking about? Jesus Christ. They don't know anything. He said they don't know SHIT about women's basketball. What you don't understand is that women like Caitlyn Clark, and this is why we call her a generational talent, they brought attention to women's basketball because Caitlyn Clark is a generational talent. You say people like Shannon Sharpe and Stephen A. don't know anything about women's basketball. Although their job is to literally study sports, I'll give you that. Let's say they don't know anything about women's basketball. Doesn't that give Caitlyn Clark even more credit for bringing some of the biggest sports broadcasters' eyes to women's basketball? Caitlyn Clark did this. Without Caitlyn Clark, we wouldn't even be talking about this. There would be no topic. She's that good. She's genuinely that good. She's amazing, actually. She's one of the best basketball players I've seen. And I played for years. She would come down the court, be 2 feet behind the three-point line, and shoot it. Let that joint go. No one can guard her. She's that good. She brought that attention. But this is not a cancer. This is a blessing, if I'm being honest. This is a blessing because for years, the WNBA failed to turn profit. They failed to turn profit. They failed to sell tickets. That's the reality. They were being subsidized by the NBA for years. But because of young rising stars, especially Caitlyn Clark, this is not the case. And now we're talking about a black versus white thing. This is pathetic, if I'm being honest. It's outright pathetic and it's outright insulting. And if I was Caitlyn Clark, I would have a problem with this. Because you're just trying to undermine her skills because she's a white woman. It's crazy.
Having these debates, and so it's not just Scott talking about that she got scratched in the eye, or what did you say?
It was stabbed.
Stabbed in the eye. But it's when you're having these robust discussions about who was the best player in the WNBA, or WNBA MVP voting, or who should be in the WNBA finals, and you have these people who just don't know about it but are inserting themselves in the conversation, it provides for a more cancerous narrative than we deserve.
And to add on to that, Bakar, we also should mention that Angel Reese has had to be subjected to an incredible amount of racist abuse because of this rivalry.
Now I got to defend Kim Mulkey and Angel Reese.
But
I didn't say Kim Mulkey.
I think both of these ladies, I think both of the camps, I think camps that love Angel Reese and camps that love Caitlyn Clark have been especially nasty to both of these young ladies while trying to defend them. And what they're doing is co-opting their own issues and their beliefs, and they're putting them on these young ladies. And that's when I said it was already decided that Caitlyn was going to be America's darling and that villain, and that Angel Reese was going to be a villain based on how she conducts herself and based on the way
until she ran into Ferguson Gamecocks last year and Raven Johnson.
It's a typecast that fits very conveniently into how society wants to see.
Of course, it's the same thing with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson.
I think your point about projection is right.
But it helps the sport. You need
totally
inertia.
Competitives. You need a story.
You need this storyline. You need people to
look at it didn't come with the toxicity.
But that's what this country's built on, young friend.
It is built on toxicity.
I think your point about projection is right. People are looking at this as a projection of themselves, and they support one side or the other. The WNBA is having one of their most successful seasons. Women's sport is on the rise.
Not one of their most. They're having their most successful season ever in history. This is the most successful season the WNBA has ever had. I'd even take it to a point. The WNBA completely disrespected Caitlyn Clark. She deserved more. She deserved to be on that Olympic team. It shouldn't even have been a debate if she was Rookie of the Year. She should have been All NBA first team, if I'm being honest. She actually got disrespected by the WNBA, and if I was her, I would be demanding more press. I'd be demanding more money. I would be demanding more everything, because she is that good. They disrespected her. The media disrespects her. Everyone disrespects her. Honestly, she's extremely nice. She is extremely nice, and she's extremely patient. Because if she was like me, there would be a lot of problems. But she's not like me. She's Caitlyn Clark. Amazing person. Handles the press extremely well, does not deserve the criticism she gets, but here we are talking about the racial undertones of the Clark and Reese rivalry. Stupid. This is just downright stupid. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. My name is Jojo, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.